Another thing I'd really like to talk about is I do not understand why my videos are not getting any views. I just do not understand that. You would think, I can totally understand, why some of my content doesn't resonate with people. Some of my long ranty videos where I go off on tangents about silly things, I can understand that. Why 20-minute videos about things that people aren't interested in wouldn't get a lot of views. But what I do not understand and will never understand is why are my music videos not getting any views? That's, the harder part to understand. It's the music videos. You would think that, at least a few of them would look intriguing enough for people to click on, even if they don't necessarily listen to the whole entire thing. You would think that some of my music, especially the ones that I've covered, of actual songs that were famous long ago or a few years ago, you would think that somebody at least would want to click on that just to hear, what my voice sounds like singing them. And, but it's just really sad, that people have this, I do not like this mindset that just because something is AI, that it can't be good, that it should be rejected because we shouldn't live in a world where computers can do such wonderful, beautiful things as they do, and that we shouldn't support the technology behind creating AI and such for it to get better. I hate that mentality. Even people that think they're progressive and, they don't think they're conservative, they're still wanting to live stuck in the past where we didn't have such wonderful things to use. And, I have no fear of it. I am not afraid of AI or, because, the fact that it's imperfect, of course it's going to be imperfect. It's made by humans. Of course it's never going to be, quite what an artist could produce, whether visual or auditory, audio. Of course it's never going to be perfect. But that's a good thing. That just means that, it just shows that, like any other medium, it's going to be imperfect. Nothing's perfect. But, I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of, the ability of AI to improve. And I think it should. I don't think we should have to be stuck, just like these people that it wanted to keep us stuck in the past, because CDs were really just a throwback to the old black vinyl records. Um, People wanting to have a 90s version of the old vinyl record to keep us like we were still in the 70s. Um, I don't think we should have to remain stuck in the past just, because that's the only way we know how to, quote, make things fair. It's going to be unfair, when artists can't make millions of dollars, by doing something that a computer could do. Um, well, that's what I think is unfair, that, you have these people that just because they met the right people at the right time, they get to be millionaires while everybody else struggles to afford a loaf of bread and a jug of milk. They get to be millionaires just because some nasty man discovered them when they were a kid, if you know what I mean. Um, and so, that's what I don't think is fair, the world that we lived in. So, it could only improve for me, if AI is able to generate beautiful images and music. And because, at the end of the day, the way I feel about it is the computer can do nothing. The computer is worthless without the input of a human. So it's not like the computer is actually generating the music. It's just that it's a lot easier. That's why it reminds me so much of Harry Potter and wizards and sorcerers. It makes me feel like a wizard, like having a magic wand. Notice the only two vowels in magic are AI. So it makes you feel like you're in some Harry Potter universe with a magic wand that can generate music and art. at your fingertips. So it's not that it replaces, well, it does replace humans and their unnecessary jobs. But, I have no fear of living in a world of AI music and AI art. I don't really care. I really don't care if it's never quite what a musical instrument. It's pretty damn close for me. Yeah, I can barely, especially the drums. I mean, I can barely tell the difference. Um, and the artwork. So what if there's a few deformed hands here and there? But I feel like it's such a powerful tool. And what it's really doing is it's allowing people to make music, to make and create music without, people like me that are loners, without having to have hundreds of friends, they can do all the right things, such as play the drums or play the guitar or do this, do that. It takes this need for a large group of people to pull something off, in music. Because I mean, when you're a musician on a stage, I mean, you need, oh, it's really not that much different than going from needing to have a live band. Because I mean, there was a time when no wedding had anything but a live band, and then they started introducing, you know, music players that were just as good in quality. They could have a DJ instead. And so to me, it's really no different than that. It's like you're having your own little magic studio of musicians, bot musicians, and I don't mind it at all. And I mean, it is downright beautiful to me. Like, it has me in tears a lot of times on the first listen. And the reason behind that is because, as I stated before, the computer is not doing the work, it's the human. The computer can do nothing without human input. So it's really me being able to transform my thoughts. I mean, it's like I may not be talented at playing the guitar or the drums, or, may not even have a good voice. But I'm talented at writing poetry, which is basically what music is. Writing poetry and knowing how to work it into something that translates well into music. And in the way of art, it's all about being able to describe what you want to see in an image to the best of your ability. And so literary skills, as opposed to music skills and art skills and other skills, literary skills are being able to compensate for that, is what's happening with AI. Because, I mean, you still have to have a talent in some way. You cannot, it doesn't just happen. And if it does, then it's not going to sound as good. The more thought you put into it, the better it's going to look. And I found that through personal experience. You make a bunch of mistakes, you don't proofread very well, then it's not going to sound as good. It's not going to be as good. The end result is still dependent on human input. And so I'm not afraid of it, Because, I mean, at the very least, it's a good way to generate melodies and tunes that you otherwise couldn't, instead of, I mean, people used to do this all the time. They used to just steal the tune of a pre-existing song and put their own lyrics, which I thought was a lot worse. I mean, that's pretty awful. When a song is famous for being one thing, and then you change the tune and you take away the meaning that the artist actually intended. You know what I'm saying? Like, look up "Hey There Delilah" parody. And it's pretty sad because, it was meant to be "Hey There Delilah," not "Hey There This, That, and the Other." And it might be funny, but I mean, it's kind of a bastardization on what the artist intended. So I much prefer AI, and its ability to generate a brand new, unique melody or tune. And, I mean, it brings me to tears usually on the first listen. But that's because, it resonates with something deep inside of me that my parents don't appreciate, never wanted to get to know. It resonates with me because it is me, because it's my own thoughts being mirrored back to me. And it's creepy, but I mean, it's a wonderful thing to me. I don't see anything negative about it. I'm not afraid of it. Um, and then, like I said, if it's not as perfect or if it's still lacking in some areas, great. That's just a testament to the imperfection of computers because they were built by humans. And I don't mind. If it has a ring to it that's not quite realistic. Let me just think what we had before. Nothing. So it's better than that. It's better than having to sing with karaoke music, your own lyrics to a pre-existing song. It's better than that. Better than the quality you would have had with that like 10, 20 years ago. Um, so to me, it's good. It can only be good for me because I have all these thoughts coming from deep within me and all these emotions about them that no one wants to appreciate, no one wants to understand, no one wants to discuss with me. And it's very therapeutic for me. I think it's wonderful and that it can only get better, and that I think it could improve life if used properly. And I'm not afraid of AI generated art and music and all that. So what if there's going to be some limitations wherein it won't be allowed for some things because it would be cheating? Um, I don't care. It works for my purpose. It works for the purpose that I want it for, which is to compensate for my lack of a really good voice and my lack of confidence to sing with such a voice, and my inability to play very many instruments, and certainly not all at once, and my inability to make friends, who could help me produce music and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's just like these people that didn't like the ability of computers to rip CDs, and people fought against that in various ways. They didn't think you should be able to just, rip the songs off of a CD and burn new ones, um, and listen to them in other ways. Just play the file on the computer because they thought you should have to be stuck in the 1970s and 80s, wherein if you wanted that song, you had to buy your own copy of it for however many cents in that economy. Um, they were stuck in the past. They wanted to be living in the black vinyl record days forever, and then the cassette tape days. And then the CDs, were kind of like a shiny throwback to the vinyl records. And that didn't last. And the rest is history. So yeah, people just don't want to evolve, so to speak. Although I hate that word because it implies, evolving from monkeys. People don't want to get with the times. People don't want, to get caught up into what the world does today as opposed to what it used to do. They're still wanting their archaic styles to be as relevant today as they would have been long ago, wherein one person just gets discovered by the right people or group of people and gets to become a millionaire, just simply because they happen to have not hit puberty when they were discovered, or they just happen to be talented or gifted with a special kind of voice that most people don't have. And then meanwhile the rest of us just starve, or not starve, I mean I'm anything but starving. The rest of us just struggle to provide for ourselves because we didn't have that circumstance. And same thing with artists. They want their trashy old school art, to still be valuable when AI can do so much more and better in milliseconds and give me content that I would much prefer any day of the week over actually watching the show. I would much prefer to either draw with my own two hands, or my one hand, right hand, my own content, or create AI images that are almost as good if they're accurate. I would much prefer, to consume that any day of the week. And I wish that they would, come closer to the ability of users to make their own cartoons. from scratch and have them look almost like the real deal. I would much prefer to consume my own content and the things that are meaningful to me. You know, as I've stated before, things that deal with the subjects that mean something to me and not what everybody else wants to see. And if my suppositions are correct and that everything to do with royal magic seems to be omitting Cedric from existence, then I will have no use for it. No more use than the stupid Rugrats. You know, I mean, I only had a one-track mind where Sophia the First was concerned. And, you know, it's like I only have certain specific points of interest with anything, you know, related to that. And if AI is better at giving me something along those lines than the actual show, you know, then why should I bother with the actual show, with actually, you know, watching the source material when it doesn't give me what I want? And when I could actually draw something that I would enjoy 1,000 times more, you know, than anything the show could ever provide me. You know, because, I mean, let's face it, many a times I was just watching the show just to be familiar enough with the source material to draw pictures of it. So yeah, I guess this is another long video, you know, about how I don't have a problem with AI, and I'm not sure why people don't like my musical content. You know, they may not like my other stuff, but my music should be getting more than 5 to 10 views a year. So I'll go ahead and post this video.